Liz Rush, the author of All About Nothing.
And I am Liz Goss, the illustrator of All About Nothing.
So All About Nothing is a picture book that encourages kids to look at the world differently, to see what might be hidden in the space around things, and to appreciate how important that space can be. Liz Goss has a fabulous hands-on activity that you can do at home or at school.
I have a little paper cutting activity for us to do. We're going to do a notan activity. Notan is a design concept specifically in Japanese art that involves the relationship and the balance between light and dark in a piece of art. And this is a really fun paper cutting activity to sort of explore how negative space and positive space can interact and make a picture together. So what you're going to need is you're going to need 2 pieces of paper. One should be light and one should be dark. Specifically, if you have black and white, that would be best, but it doesn't have to be black and white. If you have, say, a brown paper bag and a piece of white paper, that will work too. You can sort of use whatever you have available to you. And then you're going to need something to cut with, either a pair of scissors like Liz Rush has, or a handy dandy craft knife, which is what I usually use, and a pencil. And if you want to keep your design, we're just going to play with it today. But if you want to keep your design, if you've set it all out and you like it just how it is, you're going to want to glue it down. So if you have a little white glue, that'll be perfect. All right, let's get started. Liz Rush has very kindly offered to be my guinea pig, and she's going to cut along with me in this activity. So once you have your nice square piece of paper, what you're going to start doing is you're going to start drawing in shapes. And these shapes can be anything you want. They don't have to be anything specific.
Liz, are they small shapes or big shapes? Does it matter?
So that's a good question. It's up to you. I recommend, actually, if you're doing it for the first time, it can be fun to try doing all big shapes on one side and small shapes on another side, and then maybe mixed on this side. All the pieces should come in from the edge.
Okay. So I could just start cutting.
You can, and it's very important that there are no scraps in this exercise, which is one of my favorite things about it. All of the pieces that you cut are important. So you're just going to take them out to the side. Ooh, there you go. I like that one.
Do I want to do them from all 4 edges, or does it just can I just do from 2 edges?
It's up to you, but I would say, it's fun to come in from all 4. It is.
So do I do any more cuts from either the big piece or the little piece?
You definitely could. If you wanted, you could even cut some of those. So some of the scraps that you've cut out, you can cut a little into that. Just try and remember which ones you cut them from.
Oh, okay. But I can cut a piece out of one of the bigger pieces.
You can.
Okay.
I believe very strongly that art should be how you want it to be. Here, I'll cut one out of that too. There are a lot of rules, and it's good to know them, and then it's also good to ignore them from time to time, or at least, sort of mindfully ignore them. Let's put it that way. So I'm kind of liking how this is looking. How are you feeling about your piece there, Liz Rush?
I'm pretty good. I'm just cutting one more piece out of one of my bigger pieces.
Oh, I love it.
4 big pieces, and I feel like they're big, but I'm trying to keep them organized here. Okay.
Cool. All right. So now we're going to take our other sheet of paper, our contrasting sheet of paper. Ooh, I like your board, Liz.
Thanks. I actually use it for sketching out the shape of a book. I use little note cards, but I'm going to use it for the art activity.
Ooh, fun. Now we have our piece, which I think most people would think of, oh, this is the piece. This is what we've done. But remember, we have all the pieces that we cut out, our scraps that are not scraps. And the wonderful thing about this activity is that it makes you wonder which piece of art is really the piece of art. Now, traditionally, you would do these back. Yes, these are our handy dandy scraps. You would do these back in a sort of a mirror image. So almost like you had flipped it out like that. However, remember I said I love to break the rules. So if you find you set this up and it's going to run into another piece, or you don't like necessarily how those look together, I think it is fine to switch them up. That is not the traditional way to do it, but that doesn't mean that isn't how to do it. I actually encourage you to wait on gluing until you've put everything down and then decide if you want to change things or move them out.
I think it will be painfully obvious which one of us is the artist and which is the writer.
Well, I have done one before, but I wouldn't sell yourself short.
Wow. Yours is so beautiful.
I like yours very much. Yours reminds me of different cloud forms from where I'm sitting. You almost have like half a butterfly at the bottom or like a moth going on. So the purpose of this activity and the reason why I like it so much is that it really shows how you can't have negative space without positive space, or really positive space without negative space. The two are so interconnected. You're going to have a much stronger composition. You're going to have a much stronger piece if you respect both your positive and your negative space. Well, so that's my paper cutting activity. But Liz, do you have a mindfulness activity for us to play with?
I do. I have a mindfulness activity that's also a writing activity. So, as a writer, I try to use all five senses when I'm describing something. So, sight, hearing, feeling, smelling, and taste. And often I also write a lot of nonfiction. And when I go somewhere and I'm reporting, I will often take a moment and jot down what I'm sensing with all five senses so I can really make that place come to life. And this is also something that you can do to really ground yourself, to take a moment and really be where you are in that moment. And so this is an activity you can either just kind of think your way through it, or because I want it to be both a mindfulness activity and a writing activity, I'm going to ask you, Liz, to if you can just jot some notes about the five senses, and I'll kind of take you through the five steps. The first thing I want you to do is just gently set your eyes on something, preferably not the computer, just something in the room around you. Look at the shape, look at the color, look at kind of where it is in space, just as a really, concretely, like what describing this thing, and then take a minute and jot down what you see, what you are looking at.
Okay.
All right. Can you tell me what you wrote down?
I see a wooden pelican at the edge of my desk. It has swirly wings and a yellow head. It is very calm.
That swirly pelican might be there in your life all the time, but just taking a moment to look at it and really look at its shape and describe it can really bring you into the moment. And that's a beautiful description too, Liz. I can tell you, I'm an illustrator. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and just listen for a moment. Try to see if you can think about what the sound sounds like and see if you can try to describe the sound. So, first, close your eyes, and I'll give you a minute. I'm going to close my eyes and be quiet too, and we'll see what we come up with.
Okay.
All right, what did you hear, Liz?
All right. So at first, all I could hear was my computer's electrical fan. It was whirring.
Whirring.
Yes, it was whirring. But as I sat and listened for a little bit longer, I can actually hear the birds outside my studio. They're cheeping, and I think they're in my fig tree.
So that's another way, like, in the moment when you're all busy and you're doing things, you might not notice the birds, right? But just closing your eyes and hearing the birds can also be really grounding. I heard the hum of our refrigerator, which I didn't know I could hear from my office. The rumble of someone taking their trash can out.
Oh,
So,
cool.
and the other thing I wanted to point out is that when you do this, you also come up with really great sound words. Like you had whirring, which sounds exactly like it is, and the hum of the refrigerator. Yeah, so the hearing activity is one of my absolute favorites because of that, because you come up with really cool words too. Okay, now I want you to just take a moment and think about what you can feel, kind of the sense of touch. So that might be how something feels that you're holding in your hand, the way your clothes feel on your body, um, what the air around you feels. So just take a moment to feel, and then jot down what you notice that you feel.
Okay.
All right. Well, what did you feel?
Well, so at first I wasn't sure. I could feel I have my hands in my lap, so I could feel my hands on my hands. That was the first thing I noticed. And then I realized that my feet are cold, which I had not realized until this, but no, I feel kind of like there's a little bit, it's probably a little bit of a draft, but it's a little bit chilly. And there's actually a lot of air moving in my studio, which I had not thought was the case.
Yeah. So I noticed that my sweater feels really soft.
Oh,
And what's
that's
cool
nice.
about that is I could go the whole day and not notice how soft and snuggly my sweater feels. But
Hmm.
you take the
Hmm.
moment and you feel it, like then I have that all day long. I also noticed that my feet were cold. So the temperature has dropped in Portland,
Yeah,
and
it's a little chilly today.
I'm putting slippers on. Okay, let's do the sense of smell. So take a slow, deep breath. And as you're breathing, it's hard sometimes to even think like, oh, I probably don't really smell anything. But just take a slow, deep breath and see if you can sense something that you smell, and then try to describe it. All right, what do you smell?
Well, the first thing I can smell is my laundry detergent. I did laundry this morning. And then very distantly, I think I can smell, I think my husband got Mexican food for lunch, so I can smell that.
Oh, lucky. Well, I also smell laundry detergent because I was going to put a clean sweater on,
Mhm,
so it's sort of this floral scent. And
mhm.
I don't know if the other smell is the paper cut. Like the do I smell paper? It smells a
You
little.
might.
Smells a little bit woody. Like, and I was looking around to see if I had pencils on my desk, but there's something woody, and
Ooh.
my desk is wood.
I find papers have really distinct smells, actually.
Hmm.
So it could definitely be your paper.
Okay, great. And the last one is your sense of taste. Now, of course, if you had just popped like a tomato from your garden in your
Yeah.
mouth, it would be you would really feel it. But yeah, just take a moment and just like see, do you have any kind of lingering taste in your mouth?
I think I can very, very vaguely taste my green tea from a little while ago. Yeah.
Well, I have a mix of maybe minty from because I brushed my teeth fairly
Okay.
recently, but I also had Cheerios, so I can
Oh,
taste a little bit oaty, kind of an oaty Cheerio flavor.
cool.
Um, so that is the mindfulness activity. You can write down the five senses that you feel, or you can even just take a moment. I think those five senses can really ground you in the moment in your day.
Wonderful. Thank you, Liz.
Hey, you're welcome.
That was great. Thank you all so much for joining us today. And please check out All About Nothing, which is coming out on April 4th, 2023.